welcome back to another episode of Realty Resilience. I'm Dave Nations, your host of the podcast, and I've got a phenomenal guest with us today, Isacc Guzman, who has been a coach and mentor of mine for quite a few years. Isaac, I don't even know how many years it's been that we started coaching together. 5 years ago? 6 years ago? 5?
About 5, I think.
Well, Isaac has been a wealth of knowledge for us and our team. I've coached with him for a while, and then I know you've been coaching with Jim, our director of sales, for a while. And honestly, every single time I've ever had a call with you, I always get off, A, with a page of notes, and B, with my mind blown, going, God, how do I do all this stuff right now? You know, and I'm not even exaggerating. That's usually the case. And then I'll call Jim and say, hey, this is what I got. This is what we got to do. You know, so I thought you'd be a perfect person to have on and share all of that wonderful knowledge with the rest of the world. So if you don't want to give us a little background on how you got here, when you got into real estate, that kind of stuff, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, before real estate, I was in software sales. So that's actually how I got exposed to real estate in general. I sold software to real estate agents for showings, right? And our company got bought by a company called Showing Time that then got bought by Zillow, right? So we had a scheduling and showing feedback company, and I was selling that software to agents. This was in the market where houses were sitting 90 days on average, right? So it wasn't something phenomenally crazy to hear like, hey, my house has been sitting for 3 months or whatever it is. And so what happens there is good listing agents end up with a lot more listings than they can responsibly handle, right? So we were selling them software. Well, from there, because of that, what I ended up doing is getting exposed to a lot of real estate professionals, right? And I liked what they were doing. I liked what the way that they thought. I also didn't hurt that it was apparent to me that they were making a lot of money. So when that company got bought, I was like, dude, I want to get in this real estate thing. I ended up starting on the investment side first. That was just kind of the best opportunity in the market at the time. This is 2011, 2012. Started doing wholesaling, flipping, acquisitions, stuff like that. Then I got my real estate license and started selling real estate.
You're in San Diego, right? Started
San
at all in
Diego,
San Diego the whole time. Yeah. Just curious.
Started
2012, what's the average sales price on these investment deals? Because I know it's like $1 million now, right? Was it that way then too?
Yeah, so then it was in the 300 range.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So about a third the price of what
Okay.
it is now.
Affordable to be able to get into some investing.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, there's people buying condos for $40,000, $50,000, right? Buying houses for $180,000, $200,000, $300,000.
Wow.
So extremely affordable.
Okay,
at
so
that
you got
point,
in doing the
right?
wholesaling and investing thing to start. Sorry, I was just curious about that.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I did that. And here's what I realized. Somebody around 2015, 16, there's less people super excited to take all cash offers, right? And what I mean by that is there was less people desperate enough to take the offers I was willing to write, right? They had their jobs, they weren't upside down on their mortgage, they got the loan modification, whatever it was. And so I was like, man, I'm not doing as well as I wanted to this year. And I ran into a buddy of mine at a Keller Williams office, a great guy, mentor of mine that I had actually sold software to in the past. And he goes, you need to get your real estate license. He goes, you're a listing agent, you just don't have a license. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, think about it. You find motivated homeowners that are thinking about selling, and you go out there and you put a contract in front of them. Now, your contract right now is a cash purchase, right? But if you just take another contract called the residential listing agreement, you can get paid every time. Like, what happens when they don't accept your offer? Like, oh, they listed it on the market. He's like, well, dummy, why don't you go be both? It's like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. So I got my real estate license, started doing the same thing, but started taking listings, joined a team real briefly. And then after that, kind of got tricked into recruiting for the brokerage. So I got caught making cold calls in an office, in the office park. Right? I was kind of sneaking in every day, making cold calls, hitting my mojo dialer, whatever it is. And because of that, I got in trouble by the landlord, got pulled in front of the team leader and the operating principal, and they said, if I catch this guy in one of our offices, you guys are going to pay for a whole month of rent. And they turned around and said, what the heck were you doing in there? I showed them my Mojo dialer, proved that I was actually making dials that day. And they turned around and go, okay, cool, here's what we're going to do. See that office right across the way? You're going to use that. That's your office now. But every single day you're going to come in after you're done with your calls, and you're going to make recruiting calls for me. So I was like, okay, cool. As long as I get a free office out of it, I'm fine with that. Turns out I had a knack for recruiting. Did it, was booking appointments, and they ended up leaving for something that you're very familiar with, which is called family reunion. After a couple months of me doing this on my spare time, they go, hey, we're leaving for a week to this annual convention that we go to every year. And so we need you to run those appointments. Because at that point I had been sitting in on the recruiting appointments just to learn and get a feel for it. And they go, okay, we're gone, and we want you to run 2 weeks worth of appointments because we're going to family reunion and then we're going on vacation. It's like, okay. So that happened. I ended up hiring 8 agents in those 2 weeks. And after that, they were basically like, I don't care what you think you're going to do in real estate, you are going to help us run this office. We had just had our first kid, so at that point I was like, okay, maybe it would be nice to have a more, set schedule. I think my son was 6 weeks old at that point, where I was just like, okay, let's do it. From there, we took that brokerage. I mean, when we first got there, it's probably a little over 200 agents, blew that up to over 550 agents in a matter of 2.5-ish years. Sold about 1.37 billion in volume out of that one office.
And that was in 2016, 2017?
2016, 17, and 2018 is when we did the 1.37 billion. From there, I recognized some things that were inside of me that I was passionate about, that I was good at. They were more in alignment with the team model. And so I went ahead and just was trying to debate whether I wanted to start my own team or partner up with somebody. I got a call from a buddy. He said, you know what, I'm looking to really scale up my team. We're a highly productive team, but we want to grow. So we ended up partnering up. We had 8 agents when I joined, including him. And we just got to work, started recruiting, started training. I was the recruiting sales manager. So I did all the recruiting, I did all the onboarding, all the training, all that fun stuff. We grew that to we eclipsed and became #1 in all of San Diego County. And then we became the next year, and then for 3 years after that, the #1 in the world at eXp Realty in volume sold.
What was that amount?
From 8 agents.
Of volume sold to be #1.
Our high water mark was 612 million in volume. That was 725 homes that year.
Congrats.
And the year before that was 440-ish homes at 336 million. The year before that was, I believe, 211 sales for like 170 million. So we saw really big growth. And then most recently, I bought a ranch about almost 2 hours away from that office. So we parted ways as partners, and I stopped, helping that team. And late last year, launched a new team here in San Diego, but just in a different part of the market. San Diego is a really big metro, especially when you factor in traffic, right? You'll hear Californians, we don't talk in miles, we talk in hours, right? So I'm like, hey, I moved 2 hours away. It's really only like 45 miles, but with traffic, that's a big difference in San Diego. So anyways, started a new team, built that thing from scratch with a business partner of mine, and that's where we're at now. We've got, I believe, 15 agents at this point. The team is maybe about 6 months old, and that's what we're doing. We're crushing it. I've also got a mortgage team that we've built. So
Man, you must be bored.
yeah, I never have anything to do.
So you've got an amazing track record. You stumbled into figuring out that you're good at recruiting. For people that want to build a team and want to grow, I think the biggest thing I hear all the time is people are like, talent. I can't find any talent. There's no talent. And meanwhile, you're telling me you got 15 people on your team and you've been doing this for 6 months, and you took a team that was 8 people over 80 people, from 200 million to 900 million or 700 million. What are you saying? Like, what is it? Something magical? Are you spiking the drink? What's happening here? How are we getting all these people in the door? For those that are wanting to grow, what do I need to know?
So first is a thing that I learned early on personally. as a wrestler growing up. So you can kind of see this ear's got some cauliflower. Everyone's always like, hey, your ears look really nice for being a lifelong wrestler. Yeah, I drained my ear. But anyways, as a wrestler, one of the things I learned being a small guy who wasn't extremely naturally gifted, one of the best things my coach ever taught me, and then eventually bought me a sweater that showed it when I won my first tournament, was hard work beats talent when talent refuses to work hard. So when anybody tells me I can't find talent, I'm like, cool, don't look for talent. Look for people that are willing to work hard, right? Your job as a business operator is to provide systems, framework, and resources for the individuals inside your organization to follow and then get good results. It does not take talent to follow instructions, right? As a matter of fact, I coach my son's baseball team right now, and the way that it worked out, he ended up having to go to the draft because I couldn't coach this year, even though now I'm coaching because of the way that it worked out. But we ended up being on what you might call an expansion team in our division, right? In other words, there was just a bunch of kids left over. And I'm not saying anything bad about these kids, but it's just a lot of kids that hadn't played ball before, right? And so, cool. At the beginning of the season, here's what we committed to. On paper, we're the worst team in the league, right? Well, we committed to just being the best in the world at all the things that don't require talent. Showing up on time, working hard, getting your reps in, listening to coach, having a good attitude, cheering for your teammates, paying attention, being ready on every play. None of that requires talent. As of right now, we are undefeated in the season. We are supposed to have lost every game we've played. We've beat the top 2 ranked teams, including my son's old team that won the championship last year. And the reason isn't because I'm amazing or these kids are uniquely amazing. It's that we understand that we're committed to the hard work and we're committed to being the best in the world at things that don't require talent. So first of all, get over the fact that you can't find someone talented. The people that, if you're looking for a second coming of yourself, don't. You got to give up on that. It's not going to happen. Don't count on it. As a matter of fact, you should take a little bit of pride that there's not as many of you laying around as there are as you would like. The other thing is this. Too many people filter up front instead of on the back end. So here's what I mean by that. If you would allow me, Dave, and be vulnerable enough to answer the question. Have you ever hired somebody that on paper, based on all your screening, based on the personality profile and the disc profile and the KPA and all these other things, should have been amazing? Absolutely. And then they flopped? Yep. Okay, 100%. Have you also hired somebody like, I'm not really sure, but I'll give them a shot, and they ended up being a stud or a studette? Yeah, so here's what that proves to me. Your picker is broken. It's a crapshoot, right? All that matters is what? How they show up. So here's what I tell everybody. Here's how you grow quickly, but also, because here's what people hear me, they think I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. You want to have great people. You want to have high quality people. And you also shouldn't be super picky up front, right? Group interviews where the other agents get to put their input, dude, no. In my opinion, that is a terrible idea because this is not a popularity contest. This is a who is going to show up and do the work. So guess what? As long as you don't show up like in a crazy way, right? As long as you're somewhat presentable when you show up, and I wouldn't be ashamed to put you in front of a client. I don't really care. As long as you have a real estate license, and I wouldn't be ashamed to put you in front of a client, I'm going to hire you. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to keep you. I'm going to, on the back end, once you're hired, I'm going to put you through a system that proves to me whether or not you will put in the work or not. Because again, I don't care how good your personality is. If you won't put in the work, it's irrelevant. I also don't care that you're very dry as toast, right? But you will put in the work. You're going to get more opportunities and you're going to close more deals than the person who won't put in the work. So instead of being rigorous up front, I'm rigorous once you join, right? And so I can describe how we're rigorous around that, but we are rigorous around that. And so there are people who join and 2 days later are off the team. But Isaac, that's going to impact morale negatively. No, it's not. Not if everybody else on the team knows it. As a matter of fact, they look forward to the day when somebody graduates from the rigorous training program that they went to, and they go, "Cool, you're finally part of the group."
Okay, so I have this is phenomenal. As I said, it would be. They always are. So First of all, I guess on all this, there's so much there. So how do I know that they're willing to work hard, right? You're like, forget talent. I just need someone who knows how to work hard. Cool. I mean, I'm going to tell you, yeah, I work hard. Okay, great. Join. But based on what? Like, are you asking them questions or are you just taking their word for it?
So that said, the really important part of all this is I look for something up front, somebody who did something extracurricular in their formative years, meaning their teenage years. I like hiring athletes. I don't care also though, they could have been in theater, they could have played music. They were committed to something during their formative years. You and I have talked about this before, but I'll share it for the podcast. I'm convinced that former athletes, and again, that's a proxy for people who committed to extracurricular activities during their formative years, including, hey, my parents were poor and I didn't have enough money to participate in extracurriculars, and as a matter of fact, I had to go get a job at 15. Cool, that's the same thing to me, right? Which is this. In your formative years, when you were determining who you are as a human being, right? Because that's what you're faced with when you're 14, 15, 16 years old is who am I? Whose opinion matters to me? How do I want to fit in? How do I want to be perceived by the world? What are the things I'm willing to stand up for, right? How do I want to be perceived by others? You're answering all those questions. Part of that for athletes is this thing that happens to us over and over and over again. 13, 14, 15-year-old Dave was constantly asked, hey, Dave, do you want to go do something super fun and totally normal and acceptable for a 15-year-old boy to do today? And your answer was, nah, I got to go get on the ice, work really hard, and get yelled at by an adult, right? That's a choice you made over and over and over again, right? And every day wasn't great. It was a lot of hard work. There's times where you probably wanted to quit. There's times where you probably felt like you weren't make much progress. There's times where you felt like, what the heck am I even doing here? And why am I doing this? And there's other times that were really, really amazing. Cool. I just described the real estate experience as well, right? Hey, do you want to go do this super fun thing that's totally normal on the weekend? Nah, I got to go show houses. I got to run an open house. I got to write an offer. I'll meet you guys after the fact, right? It's that same level, that same muscle that you have to use to say not right now because I'm committed to this thing, and the same muscle of I'm committed to this thing regardless of my level of enthusiasm at any given point in time of the day, right? You and I would still pick up the phone even though we were bummed out, even though our initial enthusiasm had waned, right? Because a lot of people get into real estate saying, yeah, I can't wait, this is going to be so exciting. And then reality sets in 2-3 weeks into it. And they're like, oh my God, it's still Thursday and it's 11:30 and I still got to make phone calls and I don't have an appointment to show for the last 2 weeks of work. Who still shows up? The best place I've ever seen that tested in somebody's formative years is playing sports. And why it's important in their formative years is because now it's part of their identity. Like, I don't need to ask you this. You are an athlete, whether or not you play sports right now, because that's who you are in your mind, right? When they play the pickup game, when they play the kids versus a parents game, you show up because you're an athlete. I just played a parents versus kids baseball game on Monday, and I'm like, cool, I'm hitting homers, right? Because I'm an athlete. So that's part of who I am. And so I apply that everywhere else. Now, once they're in the organization, how do I confirm that they're going to work hard? Here's the thing. I got to set a standard and see if they'll meet it. So here's what we do. I give you, on your second day on my team, I give you 5 leads, and I give you what to do with those 5 leads across the next 3 days. And then the next day I give you 5 more. And the next day I give you, so out of your first 10 days, from day 2 to day 10, I give you 5 leads. And I tell you exactly what to do with them. And it's a double tap call, send a text, send an email, make sure they're set up on a safe search if they're a buyer, make sure they're set up on a property or a market update if they're a homeowner seller, right? And then the next day you do the same stuff with that lead for 3 days straight, right? And if you can do that, and then the next day, you're doing day 2 tasks on those leads given to you on day 1, right? You're doing day 2 tasks, but then I give you 5 more leads and you have to do day 1 version on those leads, right? So what I'm also checking is, can you manage different leads at different stages of the follow-up process simultaneously, right?
So first question I'm sure people want to know is on this real quick, just to interrupt, is, well, where are you getting leads? I mean, are they just your SOI? Are you buying leads? Like, how do you just show up and how do you have enough leads to keep bringing people in the door? Because that's the first thing I'm thinking. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
I'll answer what our business is. We have a bunch of online leads.
Cool.
Right? ZBuyer, Zillow leads, old open house leads, all that stuff. So give them whatever. The goal, by the way, and I let them know this up front, I'll be shocked if you pull any business out of this. This is a repetition game. This is a learn how to push the button and say the words game, not necessarily where you're going to get your first deal game.
Yeah.
I want you to know that in your first 10 days here, if you get somebody who's like, yeah, I'm actually thinking about buying a house, we're all going to fall out of our seats and be super excited. That's not what this is about. This is going through the motion of working a lead. Once you can prove that you can go through the motion of working a lead, then I can give you a fresh lead. I can give you that sign call that just came in. I can give you that Zillow lead.
What's causing them to quit? Or are you asking them to quit or leave? Either way, is it just how they're not following protocol there, or are there people that are just like, I'm not doing this. This isn't because you said like day 2 they'll walk out the door. What's causing that?
Yeah, a combination of the two. Some people walk out the door, and then what I learned is I have to set the expectation that like this is not welcome to the rest of your life as a telemarketer. Right? This is let's get as many reps in using the system and having real estate related conversations as possible. And the fastest way to get the most amount of reps is through phone calls. If you never, after these 10 days, want to make a phone call again, cool. That's totally fine. We've got other ways you can generate business. Maybe you want to door knock, maybe you want to network, maybe you want to work with attorneys. Whatever that is will help you on that path. But in this 2-week window, we are going to make phone calls and we're going to work online leads that are inside the database. And so some people, no matter how much I set that expectation, they go, I don't like this, I'm out, right? Awesome. I'm glad I learned that on day 2, 3, 4, and then on month 4, 5, 6, right? And then there's other people where I go, hey, is there a reason that you weren't able to do the very simple thing that I asked you to do on these 5, 10, 15 leads? Is there a reason why? Oh yeah, I couldn't do this thing. Oh, let me show you how to do that. I'll give them a little bit of grace. Right? But when it becomes obvious, which might be the first day, it might be the 4th day, when it becomes obvious that they just do not follow instructions, or they do not raise their hand and ask questions when they don't know what to do next, that person is going to be a drag on the organization for the entirety of their stay here. So I might as well just coach them out.
Fascinating. Side note, are you able to turn your microphone up just a little bit? It's kind of quiet. I don't know.
Yeah, hold on. Oh, that's why. Hold on. It won't let me change my mic back. I unplugged everything. So we would have to stop recording.
It's fine. We'll keep going.
Okay. I'll just get closer and talk louder.
So one of the things I wanted to ask then was on that, how are you setting expectations with these people? Because I know that's an important piece too, and people talk about that a lot when they're hiring. And your situation is a different style, right? So you're bringing them in, understanding that like I don't even know what the conversion is on people staying versus opting out or you opting them out for them. But what's that expectation? And just to be clear, like day 1, I walk in the door, like this is the first thing that happens. It's not like, hey, we're gonna sit down and we're gonna train you on this, this, and this. It's like day 1, here's the leads, get to work. So a couple questions there.
Yeah, so one is I set the expectation that they are going to go through a combination of online and in-person training, right? And it's going to be what we call context-based learning. So in other words, you're not going to just sit there and watch a video and then, watch a bunch of videos and then eventually at the end, once you watch all the videos, start doing the things that you learned in the video. You're going to watch a video and then you're going to do the thing that you just learned about, right? So on day 1, that's why I actually say we give them 5 leads on day 2.
Okay.
Day 1, we're like, welcome. Let's have fun. Here's your little swag. Here's the person you could talk to. Isn't this so cool? Let's go grab a coffee real quick and just get to know you a little bit better. Awesome. Here's how you use the CRM. That's your training on day 1. And this is what you're going to do tomorrow. You're going to get these leads and we're going to expect, and here's the formula that you're going to follow. You're going to call, and here's the script, here's the thing. By the way, you're going to completely blow it. You are going to be the worst. People are going to be mad at you. You're going to screw up the script. You're going to push the wrong button. You're going to accidentally text them with the wrong name, right? Because you didn't edit the template or whatever like we told you to. It's going to happen. It's okay. right? One of the things we talk about in our expectation conversation when somebody agrees is something that we call our patience and grace conversation. We go, listen, in this onboarding, we're going to have mutual respect, and we're going to also have patience and grace with each other. And I set the expectation that they're going to make mistakes. They're going to push the wrong button. They're going to say the wrong thing. They're going to piss somebody off. They're going to accidentally put a lead in trash that they should have put in archive, whatever. Also, and I'm going to be patient and graceful with them. They're going to ask me the same question 3 times, and I'm going to be patient and graceful with them. Also, there's going to be a link that's broken. I'm going to accidentally, forget to send them the thing that I said I would send them right after the call, right? That's going to happen. There's going to be a folder in Google Drive with a link to this thing, and then you click the link and it's like, that thing isn't in there. Cool, that's going to happen. You're going to be patient and graceful with me as well, right? So I need to buy each other some slack and let each other know that. And then in addition to that, the expectation that I have for them is that you are in phase 1 of joining the team. You got the offer, you made the onboard, we believe in you, and you're going to have to earn your way into phase 2, which is all the other things that you want, right? And that's once you get through this process. And and if things aren't working at any stage, we're not going to go forward to the next step, meaning you're going to be off the team, right? And just so you know, we also prepare our current agent population that, remember guys, when we go through this process, we're going to introduce you to people that are new to the team that are going to be gone in 48 hours, and be okay with that, right? Because we're putting them through the rigorous training process. And here's the good news for you. You're only going to be partnered up with people that you know went through the gauntlet. Right? And they go, oh yeah, you're right. Right? Because the concern is, well, what if I have a revolving door? Then my team is going to see that, it's going to have an impact on culture and morale and all these other things. It's like, not if you tell them what's happening.
That's my next question is culture. Perfect. Keep going.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I tell them this. Hey, Dave, you're on my team. Hey guys, we're recruiting. And guess what? We fully expect a 50% attrition rate in the first 2 weeks for everybody we hire. We fully expect that. So be nice, be cordial, be helpful, but don't become attached. Because the only way that person is going to remain as a member of this team is if they're willing to put in the same amount of effort, energy, and resourcefulness as you do. And everyone loves that, because now the person that's gotten through that initial phase is somebody that has been tested. But they haven't been tested based on likability. They haven't been tested on how good they are at answering some personality test questions or how smart they seem in an interview. They have been tested based on tangible effort that we know produces results over time. And so this person is a positive contributor to our culture. But here's the thing. What is our culture? Is our culture the funniest people, the funnest people, the fittest people, the most Christian, the most whatever? You see a lot of teams, cultures based around these things. I'm not going to knock any of that. Here's what my culture is. Productive.
And you're proving it day one, right? You walk in the door and you got to show me how you can be productive.
I don't care if that person has blue hair or wears a MAGA hat. I'm just telling you the truth. Couldn't care less. Are they productive? Cool. That's our culture.
Now, when you have them come in and essentially just fall apart and not doing it right and screwing things up and setting the wrong name to people and getting yelled at and all that, you're totally comfortable with that, and the potential blow-ups that happen from some person out there that gets upset and wants to call and be like, oh, this guy called me 3 times and, well, whatever, I don't know, whatever fallout from, screwing up happens, you're fine with and maybe even expect.
I 100% expect it, totally fine with it, as long as there's no evidence that it was based out of pure malice or unresolvable ignorance, right? So you're going to make a mistake. As a matter of fact, I believe that people don't make enough mistakes in a lot of, when they're first starting a new job. They don't make enough mistakes. Because if you don't make mistakes, what that means is you're not trying to do anything. You're not trying, right? Now, if you're making the same mistake over and over again, right? Or Here's the one other thing I will say is like, if any other reasonable person would not have done that thing, that's where I can draw the line. That's where it gets super subjective, unfortunately, right? So I had somebody, and really what it is if you lie, the number one thing that I've ever let go of people that are doing like making mistakes, but trying, the only time I've ever let people go is when they lie to try to cover up their mistake. So I've had people lie to clients on the phone. There's something to cover up the dumb thing that they did or said. And I'm like, if you can't take ownership of that, like that's what happens when money's on the line? What happens when real reputations and lawsuits are on the line? You're going to end up lying, and I'm not riding that roller coaster with you, right? If you lie in the little things, you'll lie in the big things.
That's true. So then are you very good at / comfortable with firing people, letting them go? Because it sounds like that's a heavy part of this job.
Oh yeah, I'm super uncomfortable with it. I don't like it at all.
Even today, after you've been doing this for years.
Oh yeah. Dude, anybody who tells you like, I just fire people left and right, I question whether or not that's true, or I question whether or not they like are human, right? And I'm not saying they don't exist. What I'm saying is, if it's not agonizing to fire somebody, I don't know, it's hard for me to understand that. But just because something's hard and agonizing and uncomfortable doesn't mean I don't do it, right? Like, that's why we are where we're at. Like, think about all the people you sat in that room with the first time you went to a real estate training. Most of those people are not around you anymore. And it's for a very simple reason. They weren't willing to do the things that you were willing to do. So the one challenge that we find with top producers starting teams and then building teams is that you don't realize that by the time you get to a place where you're starting a team, you're at like a 9 or a 10 in being an agent, right? Now, sometimes there's 7s and 8s that start it too, that's fine. But you're at that upper level, right? Let's call you a 9 or 10. And then when you start a team, what you think is that you're a 9 or 10 still, but you're playing a different game. It's like when someone goes from high school to college ball, right? You're at a different level. You need to start over. You are a freshman now. You were a senior, and then all of a sudden you're a freshman. You're going, as a real estate professional, to becoming a team leader, you're going from senior to freshman again. And so there's a different level that you're playing at. There's a different skill set that needs to be applied. And so here's the new skill set. Your ability to hold people accountable, your ability to let people go, have uncomfortable, difficult conversations with people who you've really leaned in with, right? That's the problem with the recruiting process is you get to know somebody, you like them, and you make them an offer, and you get to know their family, and oh my goodness, wouldn't it be so amazing if they could pay off their school debt and buy their first property and pay off their parents' mortgage? I'm there with you, buddy. Let's do this. And then they flop, and you're like, son of a gun, this person that I really like, I've really spent a lot of time investing and getting to know and very much cheering for, now I have to let them go. That is tough. But that's a skill, that's a muscle that needs to be developed.
Would you say that that's a big reason that holds people back from even growing a team and hiring? And then also, where do I get the training and knowledge to do that, right? I mean, we teach people how to understand a contract and how to write an offer and do all that in real estate, but who's teaching somebody how to really hire, train, hold them accountable? Like you're really learning on the fly, right? For the most part, as far as I'm aware. At least maybe I'm speaking for myself because that's how it went for us. So.
Yeah, well, there's two ways. And they both have to do with proximity. Get involved with a group of people that are going to help you vent and then help you create solutions. And that looks like joining a mastermind, joining a networking group, or it looks like hiring a coach. I was
going to say hire a coach. Yeah.
Hire a coach 100%, right? That's the easy route. That's the easy button. Because the thing about a coach that's different from a mastermind or a group like that is incentive alignment, right? A coach is purely incentivized to see you win, right? And whereas a mastermind, they don't gain too much from you winning. It's not like they're rooting against you, but hey, let me take this extra time to send you this document or do this other thing. And whether or not you implement it, that's up to you, right? That's every mastermind that's ever existed. Is, hey, I'll give you whatever I can. I'll answer questions when I'm here. But like, don't expect me to follow up with you. It's not my job.
Well, they're not. It's just not as an intimate of a situation, I guess, right? If I'm coaching one-on-one with you and we're talking every single week versus we're in a room with 100 people, it's just a totally different setting. And I heard this analogy the other day, and I think it kind of works with this too. But going to a mastermind is probably like joining a gym in that, you have all the tools and what you need there. And people will share with you what it is, but you still got to go put it to work. Hiring a coach is like hiring a trainer, right? You have that person that now I got to meet you every morning at 5:30 at the gym. Now you're going to show me what to do. You're going to hold me accountable to, okay, we're going to do, 3 sets of 10, let's go, kind of thing. So I think it's the difference is the mastermind versus the coaching and, using that analogy.
Yeah. And if you don't recognize that you need a new set of skills as a leader, that's the biggest problem. Right? Once you recognize and own, I need to learn how to recruit. I need to learn how to hold people accountable. I need to learn how to ask very specific questions for my producers so that I can get them to the next level.
But I don't have time because I'm in production too, Isaac. So how am I supposed to go and train and do all that? And I'm out buying, selling, and I'm killing it right now, which is why I'm hiring these people because I'm so slammed. But I don't have time to actually go learn those things. So now what do you tell them?
So the best thing that you can do if you don't have time is figure out what you are spending time on that you can hand to other people, right? And so what that means is invest, right? And the most appreciable asset inside of an organization is the humans inside of it, right? Not the building, not the software, not even the database. The thing that can appreciate the fastest and has limitless appreciation potential is the human beings inside your organization. So if you have an assistant who's your transaction manager, what other things can you potentially give to them so that you can find that time? The other thing is this. You also have to give up some of your production if that's the case. And I know you don't want to hear that because that's how you make money, right? That's how the majority of your money is made. Now, here's the problem with that, right? Is that the more valuable you are to your company, the less valuable your company is. Because the second you stop working is the second the company stops being successful.
Currently, so until you grow and train and, elevate the rest of the people, right?
So what that means is you're going to 100% take a step back in income. You're going to, if you're committed to this thing, if you're going to build it long term, this might not be what you want to hear. You go find another coach who's going to tell you, or another team leader, or another friend who's going to tell you the opposite so that you can feel good about it. But I'm telling you the truth. Everything I've ever seen is that 99.9% of the time, as a matter of fact, I've never met the person who went forward in income when building a team. Haven't seen it. Right? Now, over time they do, and they end up having a much better life, and a harmonious life. I don't believe in balance, but I do believe in harmony. But it does take that step backwards to say, I'm not going to take this opportunity because I'm focused on this. It's the difference. We've all heard this. It's the difference between working on the business and in the business. Cool. That's all fun in theory until you have to turn down now business to focus on future development.
Yeah. So now with your model, are you taking new agents and seasoned agents, or is it mainly new agents only? Is it anybody that wants to just go through this training?
Both.
Okay.
We do new, we do experienced.
Do you see the same scenarios where even seasoned people I've been doing this for 5 years, no problem. They get in, they start doing this, they're like, nope, and then they check out.
I actually think that's more common.
Really?
Oh yeah, because they're looking for an easy button.
And they think coming on your team and you're going to give me leads every day is the easy button until they figure out how I'm going to be doing business?
Oh yeah. Because one of the main things that got them in trouble in the first place, and let's be real, experienced agents that join teams oftentimes, not always, oftentimes are in trouble or they see trouble down the road and they're trying to head it off, right? The smart ones head it off. The desperate ones wait until they have no money in their bank account, and then they go, gimme, gimme, gimme leads, right? But what happens is this: the behaviors that led to the place where you needed to join the team, formerly productive agent, right? They're what I call a recovering producer, right? You used to produce and now you don't. The things that got you here in the first place was your lack of discipline, inattention to detail, inability to manage a database in a systematic way, and understand when to apply contribution skill set and language versus conversion skill set and language. Because you don't have that, I have a hard time believing you're going to walk in and all of a sudden get in alignment with that. It happens, but it's not super common, right? So Isaac, why the heck would you even want to spend time recruiting those people? First of all, because, hey, if you look at dollars per hour spent, it's worth going through 5, 6, 7 of those people to find the one that will actually stick and also knows how to sell real estate, right? And then in addition to that, we don't only have leads as our value proposition, our services, right? In terms of transaction management, listing management, and training, providing that level of leverage inside their database and events that we do and webinars that we put on to help them better convert. That in and of itself has people that show up and go, you know what, I definitely don't want to work the leads because I don't have the discipline, skill set, whatever is required by taking leads, but I will stay because what I get on this side of the house, right? Lead gen. So I think of real estate in 3 buckets. There's lead generation, there's client to contract, and there's contract to close. My objective and my obsession is keeping my agent population focused on the client to contract component of the business. That's that's setting appointments, running appointments, getting clients, and getting them under contract, right? That's what they all wish they could spend all their time doing anyways. That's what you wish you can do. That's what I wish I could be doing all the time. And so newer agents tend to also very much place a premium on that lead generation side, right? And they go, I need leads. I need to get in front of people, right? Productive agents, they actually tend to place a premium on that contract to close side, which is, I actually know I'm going to sell 14 houses this year. But if I could sell 14 houses without taking my laptop with me on vacation and have to sit there poolside while my family's making memories and I'm sitting here writing offers and my wife is constantly giving me the stink eye because I said this vacation was going to be different, cool. If I can make that same amount of money with less fights about me being overworking, overachieving husband or wife, I would actually happily trade off. And so that's where I'm like, cool, they get to pick the combination of what works really well for them. And it's not necessarily leads because we have a very high standard for what we expect you to do in order to continue to get leads.
Good stuff. I knew it would be. Well, this has been awesome. I always like to end on a couple of things. One, I know it sounds like majority of your career has been on the recruiting front. So you may not have a funny story around a showing or something like that, but I always love to hear, like, what's the funniest, craziest thing that's happened to you since you've been in real estate?
That's a good question. I wasn't prepared for that. Okay, so there was a guy. It was actually the very first listing appointment I ever went on. I went and it was for a mobile home, like down by the beach. So it wasn't like going to be super cheap, but it also wasn't going to be super expensive. And I went, I talked to the guy, and he was super awkward, super weird dude. And I almost felt like, I was being set up for something, maybe like some predatory thing, right? So anyways, I thought it was super weird. And so I was like, you know what, like that, just too many red flags. That guy was really awkward and it felt kind of like this weird tension and he wanted to like drink wine with me and all this weird stuff. That just didn't feel right, right? So I let it slide. And so I didn't take the listing. I thought it was super weird. And a buddy at the office was like, well, I'll take it. Like, I don't care, dude, whatever. Ends up taking the listing, sells it, nothing awkward happens. And then immediately after that, the guy's like, oh, I just wanted to make sure you were good at your job. I also have a $4 million house up on the bluff that I want to sell. And so he ended up listing that too. And so like, it's funny now looking back at it, like how I just kind of gave up that opportunity because I wasn't used to somebody being nice. Because that's what it actually was. The guy was just a nice dude. But I was a cold caller and a door knocker. And so the first person that was nice to me was so nice that I thought it was weird. I thought there was something fishy happening. And so I guess that's the funniest thing I think back on is like, I was so used to being berated and beat up doing cold calls and all this stuff that the first time someone was nice to me, I was like, well, this can't be real. And so gave up probably, you know, six figures.
I mean, yeah, $4 million listing. Yeah, especially early on, like right out of the gate. Eee.
By the way, this is back in 2016. $4 million listing was like top of the market back then.
It would have been a game changer.
It would have changed my entire life probably. I would have bought my first house, my first rental that year instead of years later. But, you know, it is what it is. So.
Well, hopefully that hasn't happened since. So.
No. I'm like, you want to drink wine? That's cool.
Yeah.
Man, Jesus drank.
This usually gets me $4 million listings. I'll do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so then last, how can people find you if they want to learn more about your team, if they have a referral for San Diego, or if they want to coach with you, or just pick your brain because you're full of amazing real estate knowledge? How do they find you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind. I put my cell phone number on every single YouTube video I do. So you can check me out on YouTube at youtube.com/@realestateCEOs. That's my YouTube channel. I do a lot of free training there. Full disclaimer, I do a lot of recruiting from there for my brokerage. So like if you don't want to hear about my brokerage, skip those videos. I'm totally fine with that. You can also just call me or text me at 619-763-7006. And then you can also, probably the thing I'm most engaged on is Instagram at the moment. So you can follow me at I am Isacc G, and Isaac is spelled like you see it on the screen with 2 C's, which is really weird. So you can see me there, and you can ask me questions. I'm happy to answer any questions. I coach, and then if you're interested in joining our team, you can go to Space. Actually, I'm wearing my Space shirt right now. Our team's name is Space. Space RE as in realestate.com. You can learn about what we do there, all of our services there, and inquire. And we are in Texas, Florida, and now in California, and soon to be a couple other locations in California, but we're right here in San Diego. So if you're in San Diego listening to this, you want to learn more about it, go to spacere.com and click on the San Diego tab.
It's awesome, man. Congrats on all your success. You're killing it. And I really appreciate you doing this. And this has been a great episode, and I hope people got a lot of great knowledge out of this, but I certainly hope so. I don't know how you couldn't have. So appreciate it. Thank you. And thanks for everyone out there watching and listening to another episode of Realty Resilience, and stay tuned for our next podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Realty Resilience. Be sure to join our free Realty Resilience Facebook group where real estate professionals connect, share strategies, and access resources. You can also follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more insights. And remember, we release new episodes every 2 weeks. See you next time.